In this segment, I wanted to go through with you and actually demonstrate a recipe for what is pronounced in Chinese, and you've seen it there. If you don't know how to say this word, it's pronounced yuk. Yuk is a type of medicinal porridge. You can have all different kinds of it. Sometimes it's made with rice. You can make it with oats or barley or buckwheat or quinoa or some kind of grain. It will be the base, but then we can add medicine to it. I want to show you two products in particular that you really got to be aware of, and you'll see a segment on how you can shop for these things, because I don't want you to feel like these things are exotic or you're not able to get them or anything else. These are common products. If you're in a big city in North America, you can find these in any Asian grocery store. These are the most common things. That's why I'm giving them to you, because it's very empowering. They're easy to get. They're very inexpensive. And the difference for your health, especially if you're dealing with any kind of chronic patterns of imbalance, is really tremendous. I mean, for the money, it's kind of the best medicine you can be doing. So let's say we wanted to make a medicinal porridge, which I'm going to demonstrate for you. But as we get started, I want to show you these two. This is in Chinese called fuling. It's a type of truffles. Actually, it's a type of truffle. So it's a fungus, mushroom kind of thing. In Latin, it's called porriococos. And it's very bland. It doesn't have any flavor whatsoever, but the medicinal properties are to really help fortify the spleen. So if you go back to your pattern discrimination that's in your book, any kind of digestive problem, especially if there's a lot of mucus building up in the body, if this condition has gone on for a long period of time and you're now not sleeping well, right? We say the heart is disquieted and you're very agitated, your consciousness is a little bit whacked out. That's most of us in North America, at least at some point. It treats all of those patterns. It treats spleen vacuity, it treats dampness, and it also quiets the heart spirit, which has nothing to do with anything spiritual. It just means that it settles your consciousness, it quiets down your psyche so that you're not babbling to yourself and agitated. So it's a very good remedy for stress, and it really works at the level of the digestive mechanism. Another super medicinal substance that the Chinese love to use in medicinal porridges and all kinds of dishes. This is called, in Chinese, in Pinyin Chinese, it's called shanyao, which is not important to anyone, but it is also in Latin called Radix diascorea. So it is essentially a tuber. It is a type of sweet potato. It is a type of medicinal yam. Okay, and this is very dried. Okay, I can break it here and just put a few pieces in. When it hydrates, both of these things have to soak overnight, the same way you would soak, say, a pot of beans. That's a good amount for my cereal tomorrow. Okay, and take this much. I'm going to rinse it. Always good to rinse stuff that's been sitting and dried out. So I just take some water here, strain it off, in case there's dust or any kind of residue from pesticides, anything like this on there. It's very likely that there is. So I give it a quick rinse, then I'm just going to set it out. I'm going to let this soak overnight in about that much water, okay? And it can just sit right here near to my windowsill. And by tomorrow, I'm going to put that in and let it cook and let it boil for a good, say, 45 to 60 minutes. And then I'll add it to my cereal, which I'll make tomorrow, and I'm going to show you some other things that can go into your yolk that are especially fantastic, right? If you're dealing with any kind of health consideration, you're going to want to know how to do this. It's very easy to add some amount of vegetable greens to your, which sounds odd, right, to have greens in your cereal, but the health benefits are tremendous. And if we add these medicinals that I'm going to be soaking overnight, you're going to feel a difference even after one bowl of this stuff on how strong it makes your body. And if you do this over a period of time on a regular kind of dietary, as a regular staple of your diet on a regular basis, you're going to notice big improvements. People dealing with IBS, Crohn's disease, any kind of digestive disturbance related to, especially there's a whole lot of, gluten intolerance, right? These are all indications that mucus is building up, dampness is building up in your belly, and that the spleen is vacuous and not sufficient to do its function of helping to digest and break down the food. So we're going to show you this after it soaks, so we'll come back with another segment and show you other things that we can add don't be fooled, right? You can make delicious medicinal porridge. So just because I'm telling you we got a bunch of bland herbs and we're going to put it with oatmeal, it doesn't taste anything like. Once you see the other things that I can put with this, you're going to be very, very happy that you know how to do this and where to find these products. Okay, so we've taken our medicinal part of our porridge, of our cereal, our jook, if you remember this word. Okay, this is our, we have here fuling, that's poria cocos, that's these guys floating. Okay, and then the shanyao, I said, is the diascorea, it's called in Latin. That's a type of sweet potato. And I've soaked these overnight now, and I'm just going to put these in and let these boil for a good 90 minutes or so, right? You can even slow cook them. You could cook them in a pressure cooker and really soften them. But if you boil them on a very low kind of simmer for, say, 90 minutes or so, they really soften and get actually quite palatable. And then we're going to add other things to make our jook, to make our porridge actually very, very delicious. And so I'll show you that in the next clip. But for now, I just dump this in here. Very, very simple to do. Soak it overnight. Right? I'm just putting it in here. And then I'm going to hit it with some heat and really let it boil. I'm going to put it on low and go take care of some other work and just let that cook for about an hour and a half, and then I'll be making up my breakfast. So now the next stage in this is to add what we need to add to make our medicinal cereal, medicinal porridge, our jook, into what it is that we want it to be. If you remember, and I still have my herbs here boiling, this, just so you understand, this diascorea, which I've said already is a type of sweet potato, and that's what's boiling in here along with the poria. This has a very good effect for when the body is dried out. So it's that deep level of dehydration. It's very hydrating, it's very nourishing. As we age, we dry out. So some of the really common signs and symptoms, first of all, and if you look in your handbook, this is blood vacuity. Any visual acuity problems, anytime your eyesight, your vision is starting to suffer. This is very common now because everybody's staring at computer screens, which of course is very hard for your eyes. But as we age and the blood is not really strong enough to nourish all the various tissues, you end up with visual problems, dry skin and hair, and then of course also very common one that's often more acute is constipation, where you have dry bound stools and it's very hard to move your bowels because your intestines are very dried out. That's what this diascorea really helps with, and it keeps you hydrated. It's not enough to rehydrate the body just by drinking lots of water, right? If you don't have the correct setup also in your body and you're not eating the right foods, you'll just pass that water out as urine very quickly. So shanyao or diascorea really helps with this deep, deep dryness that happens in the body as we age and also from stress, of course. The poria, if you remember these little guys, looks like little tofu balls or squares. This stuff really helps with what I've talked about actually several times now in this concept of dampness. When mucus gets into the body and it starts to really accumulate and cause allergic kinds of conditions, anything from IBS to gluten intolerance to Crohn's disease to irritable bowel, anything. All of those will have an element of mucus that's really deep within the body. You say dampness, phlegm, and dampness. Phlegm goes up in the body, dampness stays in the lower belly, right, your lower abdomen. So poria, those little squares, really help with this. It's very bland. It helps your spleen function to really deal with dampness in the body, but it also has a certain drying effect that also just drains dampness or dries dampness out of your body. So it's very, very effective. So you have in this combination two separate mechanisms that are dealt with. In chronic disease, you're both drying out and usually getting damper as you get sicker or as the chronic disease persists. So this is very important to realize, and this is why medicinal cereal, medicinal porridge like jook, like I'm making here, can be just great. I've boiled these now for a good hour and a half, and I even let them sit again overnight. So I'm just going to add my oats. You can use any grain that you like. This is just whole oats. I like these, kind of rich. You could use quinoa, you could use rice, you could use millet, you could use buckwheat, you could use barley, you could use any variety of different grains would be fine. I just like my oatmeal. So I add my oats, and now we're going to let this cook, and I'm going to show you here what I'm going to add to it. I'm going to add a little, this is raw cacao, okay? These are just whole seeds, whole beans. Some of them are cracked and broken, but you can see the whole ones in there. This is a fantastic thing to add. It's very good for digestion. There's a free report, a special report on cacao, so you'll hear more about that. It's used a lot in Guatemala because it grows here, and also the Maya use it sort of ceremonially. It's a really outstanding kind of food source. Super high in lots of different things, anti-cancer properties, but it's a good stimulant, and it really strengthens your digestion and gives you a big lift. The same way people would drink coffee as a stimulant, but it's great as a food supplement. A little less damaging, I think, that way than if you just had it the way people drink coffee, just to get stimulants and more stimulants and more stimulants into their system. So I'm going to have some cacao with that, but then the other thing I'm going to have in my yolk today, which I really like, you can add greens of any kind. Now this leaf that I'm showing you here is from the comfrey plant. It's actually toxic if you take too much of it, but in small amounts, in small doses, it's really, really excellent to use. And for this, I'm just taking the fresh leaf. I'm going to put it in once my oats have cooked. And you could use, in North America, the easiest and maybe some of the best and most nourishing things would be collard greens or kale. Both of these I really like in my cereal from time to time, as bizarre as that seems to people. And also, of course, broccoli, right? It's really the most nutritious green there is, even though the flavor kind of is what it is. But if you put it in a cereal like this, it kind of masks the flavor, and then you get all the benefits of broccoli, and you don't have to deal with the flavor. Some people like it. I find it very strong, but it's very, very good for you. It's really one of the best. So I'm going to add my comfrey leaves toward the end, so they just get a very, very light cooking, maybe 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And then the other thing I'm going to do, just for pure flavor, two separate things actually. I have a nice block of sugar here. This is basically, it would be more or less like molasses. This is a very common way that people do sugar in Central and South America. So this is just a great way to have your sugar. It's very wholesome. It's kind of a whole sugar. There's nothing refined about it. And then the other last thing that I always like to add is a little bit of shredded coconut. Just for flavor, it gives a little bit of sweetness. There's a lot of coconuts here in Guatemala too, so it's easy to get this. Of course you can get it in North America, but all of these things together really make for a very, very delicious breakfast cereal. And a lot of medicinal properties have gone into this. We could even add herbs, herbal formulas to it, formulas that are mixed into powder form. One that I really like to use, that I actually have right here, and you would need a prescription from a practitioner to get this. The public can't buy this, but I'll just show you this anyway. Right? I might take capsules of this formula. Is called siwu tong. It has to do with, again, with nourishing the dryness that the body usually develops as we age. And you say technically it nourishes blood. Right? It strengthens your blood and nourishes blood. I'm in my 40s, so I could use a little bit of that. So I might just drop a little bit of this in here. I'm just opening the capsule and dumping in the powder as a way for me to get also my herbal medicinal supplements. And I'll let that cook with the oats for just a few moments, not very long really. And it becomes a very strengthening dish. It becomes a really nourishing, super, super concentrated dish for you to get all the various things that you would need to balance your pattern. So here's how you cook medicinal porridge. This is one example. It's not the only example. You could get very, very creative, but I'm showing you just what you could do here with yolk, that you could target it toward your exact patterns of imbalance, and then get really creative and have a good time having a very delicious morning meal to get you off to your start your day. Okay, so here I am with my yolk, my medicinal porridge, and I've added, you can see the greens here, right, and you can see a little bit, this is the poria, cocos, and here's my wild yam, my shanya wild diascoria. I'm going to add some yummy cacao. You could add raisins or something like this. I like a good hit of cacao in the morning. It's just great to get you going, really clears your mind, gives you a lot of energy and strength and force for the hard part of your day. And I throw a little bit of shredded coconut on top as well. And I put a big glob of butter. Love butter. You could use oil or anything else like that. But what you have here is a very, very nourishing, very nutritious mix, and very medicinal mix because of the things that I've added in it. And this is very common. This is a very smart way to eat. In the segment and the posting talking about soup and the importance of eating liquidy, watery dishes during the day, soups of any kind. Obviously, cereal can be made very soupy, and then it's also very hydrating and nourishing. So I'm just going to sit down here and have my soupy, hydrating, nourishing, very healthy medicinal porridge. It really does taste fantastic. Get a big hit of the potatoes cooked down very, very smooth, so that everything is really very easy on your system, which is the whole purpose of soup. And then you have all this extra nutrition thrown in, and it tastes great, so you don't mind eating it, and you get everything you need to really kick it all day long. So, medicinal porridge, very smart thing to add to your diet, very easy to do, very empowering.